Hello, guys. We are live with Tamara Jones, affectionately known as TJ. She is an incredible investor in the short-term rental luxury arbitrage space with a focus on experiences, unique stays. She is not your mama's arbitrage, y'all. She is not into the cookie cutter, let's just do everything the same. She wants to spice it up a little bit because that's what drives the experience and that's what drives the revenue. And we love to talk revenue. So TJ, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into this. Are you from a family of investors, or what? Tell us about yourself.
You know what? First, I just wanted to tell you thank you, Dr. Rachel. I've been like a little kid, so excited about this because I love this business so much. So I was so excited just by somebody asking, would you talk about it? Yes, of course I would talk about it all day. But my name is Tamara Jones, or you could call me TJ for short. I have been in the short-term rental business since 2015. Here in Atlanta, Georgia. And I'll tell you, I started with a room. So I just started by fluke with a room, trying to make a little bit of extra money. And boy, did that money blow me away. I didn't imagine, I just didn't think that room was going to perform like that. It literally was like, okay, for a little, extra change, a little passive, I would just put that room. And that room blew me away with what it was bringing in. This is in 2015. And so I decided, Dr. Rachel, I'm like, hey, I actually want a full unit. Like, how do you do that? I want to go forward with this because if this room is doing this, then what does a full unit, do? Can I quit my job? So eventually that happened. But yeah, can I quit my job? And so when I went out looking for, how do you get a property, for the use of short-term rental, I looked for anybody else who was doing that offered maybe some advice. And I did come across, he's known as Coach Cav now, but back then he was not. He was just Alvin Cavalier. We had a similar tie in the military, both military. So I asked him and I talked to him as he was building his business. I asked him, hey, I am interested in this business, and if you let me, I have some skills because at the time I was paralegal in the federal government. So I said, I have some skills that I would trade, I would barter with you, if you just, kind of teach me the ropes and things like that. And that turned into a couple of years. So it turned into me working for your space and him for, a few years where I helped with everything from setups to sourcing his properties to permits and things like that. And I actually helped him, break out into the West Coast, get his tiny house and things like that. And so along the way, I picked up a few units, but it was such a passion. I enjoyed that job just so much of riding shotgun with them, seeing it grow and things like that. So along the way, I did pick up my own units. I have one here. So the one I'm sitting in, which is my home office, I'm sitting in a place called Buckhead, Atlanta. This is an Airbnb. When I leave, and I'm going to do a little video on that. When I leave here, if it's any more than one day, it goes up for reservation. A lot of times I'll pre-plan that out in a year. And whenever me and my family, so I have a family, it's not just me and my children, we leave. We put this up, we open the calendar up, and this becomes reserved by a lot of times families, families or contractors here. And that's what pays for my travel. I don't pay for travel. So this unit here, and I do have one in New Orleans that I like to jump in and out of. I have one on Tybee Island. And I used to have one, and I'm still crying about it. I used to have one in Clearwater, Florida. I had a great, that was my last unit, but that unit was stood up right before COVID hit. It was like stood it up, and then that next month, COVID hit, and it was just too young to sustain such a hit, a financial hit. So that's pretty much me. I've been doing this again since 2015, and my passion really is to be a helpmate to short-term rental investors in the real estate market. And I've really found it as a passion. And why I like that is because I can attach to a lot of different types of projects, and that's led me to, we talked about it, the unique stays and things like that. So that's about me. Yeah.
That's awesome. And I just got to tell you, I can feel your passion and it exudes. And I think that's what helped me to gravitate towards you. You're so passionate about this space. You're one of the most passionate people that I've met about this space. Yeah, absolutely. And you've helped so many others, come into this space. And I just love everything that you're doing. And you spoke on a few things. And you know what? Let me do a quick little housekeeping. So you all, I thank you so much for your patience as we're jumping on. We're having a lot of tech issues. And so that is typical. Rachel, the IT, informatics, healthcare professional by day, with all of the tech issues. Okay, so that is the standard. So I thank you so much for your patience. I will say that this group was actually this live was actually scheduled for our private Facebook group for our founding members. But I do know that a lot of you had reached out and wanted to be a part of this and wanted to interact some with TJ. So although this was dedicated to our founding members of the Luxury Short-Term Rental Academy, we wanted to bring it out for the entire group so that you can have a little bit of exposure and make that connection with TJ, because there were a lot of questions as soon as I started to circulate the information that TJ was going to be joining us, guys. So TJ, you said a lot of great things there. Coach Cav, oh my gosh, what a rock star in the space, right?
Yes, and he's also passionate.
He is. And Coach Cav is going to be talking to us beginning of October as well. And this week, when I was thinking a little bit about the different ways to host, okay, because of him, I've added a fifth way of hosting. Mm-hmm. So I started off, and what a powerful pivot, right? This whole industry. I started off owner landlord. Then I realized, I don't think I can buy something right this minute. What can I do? Because I'm always scrambling for a deal. My powerful pivot was an arbitrage. And then, as people are seeing how we set up our properties, they're like, can you do it for mine too? Then co-hosting property management. But because of Coach Cav, I'm going to coin one more way to host, and that's the turnkey model, which is kind of, a mixture of the others. But then it's the acquisition side of it. Like he kind of takes care of part of the acquisition side, which I think is very interesting. So we're going to talk to him a little bit about that as well. And so you touched on a lot of things, just really excited about it. So when you said that one property that took that hit, it was a little bit too young and a little bit too not able to really withstand the changes in COVID, TJ, let us know. So what are your thoughts about going forward? What are the things that you recommend someone would do right now as we're facing some different changes in travel patterns? How do we protect our asset? How do we protect our property, whether we own it, whether we arbitrage, as things are changing on it?
Yeah, that's a good question, Rachel. And it feeds into not only just arbitrage, but we'll talk about it from an arbitrage perspective. But what we're really talking about is how do we deal with restrictions? So restrictions, when they come in the form of, what we're dealing with in the short-term rental business, two ways: the form of policy restriction and the form of travel restrictions. So what do you do with that? So not to make this long-winded, but I have to take you back to where we started to see the first form of restrictions. You'll start to see how we were pivoting or how to pivot during policy restrictions. So I'll tell you again, when I was working with YS and JAP and all of that, I had the pleasure of being someone in a position that was doing sourcing plus permit checking. So a lot of zone checks happening at the same time. And what I was starting to notice from my own purview doing those two jobs at the same time was that the more that restrictions were showing up in those metro areas, the more I was seeing on the sourcing side opportunities out in the rural areas. And you kind of talk about, these major shifts, but that's when I started to see initially, kind of around 2018, and I'm sure it was happening before that, a lot more opportunities showing up on the sourcing side that were out in the rural areas. And that was because I would like to look for places that had already been a short-term rental or furnished first. So I was seeing that, more and more of those were showing up. Now, from the news or trending side of things, I started to notice how Airbnb was kind of rewarding hosts who would build something that was away again from the metro areas, off of the beaten path, out there in those rural areas. And they were doing it with something called a unique fund. So they were pivoting back then. So we saw, a little pivot back then, again, by incentivizing hosts to build, they would call it eco-friendly, eco-friendly dwellings away from the city. And so if you saw that trend happening as restrictions were happening closer to the city. So what exacerbated that effort and that pivot was COVID. Then COVID came along, and not only did you see a pivot from one of the major platforms, and I like to use, and I'm going to defend it for a second, I like to use Airbnb a lot because it is just one of those major powerhouses when we talk about the platforms that we use. It's almost like when you say Kleenex, you know it's Kleenex, but you're talking about tissue. So I like to follow those trends. But you see, basically, from a traveler standpoint, not only Airbnb pivoting, but now you see travelers being restricted from the travel restrictions, but they were starting to experience, just like us all, what I call COVID fatigue. So COVID fatigue, not being able to see their families, not being able to connect. So you have two things happening on the front of travel. You have restrictions happening, people experiencing COVID fatigue. You did see a rise in what I call those digital nomads, which are people that now work virtually, and those professional medical people. You saw a spike in that, but that's only 30% of travelers. If we look at the numbers, that's about 30% of your travelers. And so where is where are we getting, or where's the other 70% of those travelers going? They wanted to go connect with their family. So where are they going? They're not going to the metro areas. They're going out to those rural areas to connect with their families. So what you saw, again, is a pivot from the platform perspective, but you also saw a pivot from the travelers' perspective too, because they're saying, hey, we can't congregate, near the metro area. It's not safe, maybe, from all kinds of standpoints at that point, but you see them looking for what's drivable, where can we get together and actually be together without being restricted? So you start seeing a lot of dwellings show up, short-term rental dwellings show up around those state parks, out in farms, and things like that. So yeah, I was like, hey, yeah, hell yeah, let's go for it. So that's what I'll say, is that if we take it back to what does it mean for your business, is that you have to have the ability to pivot. You have to pay attention to those trends, not only the trends on what's going on with the platform. You have to pay attention to the trends that's happening with the travelers themselves, And so with CTG, that's my company, we pivoted too, because now when we're sourcing, Rachel, we're looking at everything. I'm telling you, I had a church on the table, recently. Nobody wanted it, they wasn't ready. But these are the things that we're saying, okay, we're following these trends for you. Shake your portfolio up a little bit and add in these spaces. When we're looking for spaces now, when you're looking out, and if you're somebody who's sourcing, because I always tell people, I'm not doing anything that you cannot do. Every time you need a property, I'm putting time in it. You could put time in it. That's all it is just time. We're not doing anything magical. But now what I'm trying to get out there, and I think me and a lot of other people, is that don't just look for maybe a metro area based unit. It's okay to look out, and don't just look for the revenue potential coming out of that unit. Look for ADU potential. Look for that zoning that allows you to maybe stand up a couple glamping tents or pull up a tiny house or something like that. And it's really, even though coming out of a dark period, I'll call it a dark period, it's exciting. It's an exciting, time for investors.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, TJ, you hit so much. I don't even know how I'm going to unpack this amazing gift that you just gave us. You dropped so many gems there. Everything from unique stays, you're looking at tiny houses, ADUs, the ability to stand up in ADU. And that's something we actually talk about in our academy is I'm always looking for a space that has a little casita or has a little something extra, granny flat or something extra because so it's to me that's one transaction. You get 2 deals in one transaction, possibly 3 deals. I tell them you get 3 deals because the casita is 1 unit, the main house is 1 unit, and then the whole package is a 3rd unit. That's 3 listings for me.
It's exciting. It is exciting. It's an exciting time. Yeah,
and
it's exciting. So
time,
you know that's.
Go ahead. There's a little bit of a delay.
No. Go ahead.
Sorry. Well, when you said
go ahead.
When you said time, it's all about that time. Now, our Facebook group has a lot of busy professionals, right? But you, TJ, you work on this 6 out of the 7 days a week.
Yes, I do.
So this is your full focus.
This is my full-time job. Yeah.
So you are the subject matter expert, and you yourself have properties that you're managing remotely. You're not in them every day. So it would be a drive for you to get there. Thanks, darling. I'm getting dinner too, guys. So
that's right. You got to get it in.
Yeah, but TJ, tell us a little bit about the types of homes that you're sourcing. I know you had an interesting experience in California, which we have quite a few people who are in California. So I want to hear all about it.
I don't even know. I hope he was able to make it. So I'm talking about you, Mike Rivers. That's one of our solid investors. So we have some types of investors that they don't want hands-on they just want the unit delivered. They want the stream of income and to get into this, but they want, hands-off. So I call them silent partners. But one of our silent partners, I came up with a deal for him. I mean, it was a wonderful deal, because we look at deals from 4 different aspects. And it's number 1 is, is the deal legal? Number 2 is the deal fair? Meaning, are you paying fair, rent and expenses and things like that? Is the deal lucrative? Meaning that is it a good ROI there? And then also we're looking now for that potential, what's the potential to turn this into an experience and add those additional streams of income. And I'm telling you, this property hit all of those blocks in Joshua Tree, California, this week. It was on the table, and I'm telling you, it was one that we had to fight for. We didn't get it, but I'll tell you the story because it's still added value, just the experience. So, the people were swarming around this property like flies. And so sometimes you have to go in swallow all your pride and just kind of, not beg a little. I won't call it that, but you want to tell them why it is that you need to not look at any of those other competitors and why it is that we would be bringing the best partnership and making your property shine, why you would want to go with us. So I'm trying to build that initial trust and relationship. And you know what? At first, the owner told me, just no, I have, over what I'm asking, I have other lucrative deals on the table. But I got a call back the next day saying, hey, I do have these other, propositions on the table, but I don't like how convoluted their process is. They were telling me about the 20-page contracts and things like that, telling me things like that. And I also appreciate the way that you came back and said, hey, just keep us in mind. I still want to, check in with you every so often, just those little things. So we started going through the process, but in that same breath that the owner was saying, hey, we like you, they were making a deal to where it was not equal. It wasn't a fair deal, meaning they were not going to apply. They want to pull out all the appliances and things like that. And when we have deals like that, we have to walk away. It still has to be something in it for the person that's arbitraging. So me and Mike, he's probably out on that call somewhere. We now call that the negotiations from hell, because it was 3 days of going back and forth with trying to get the owner to just be reasonable with the terms. And we had to let it go. It did die on the vine, but what a great experience. Found a great unit, was legal, had ADU potential, city views, and it just is what it is. So that was one of the particular projects we had that kind of died, but we're going to keep going forward. Now, what is going well with unique stays is, and I've talked about this before, is that I have been on this glamping project for a while now. I don't know if it's too early to talk about that.
No, go for it. Okay. Take it. Yes.
Okay. Well, it's going. I love it, love it, love it. So it was through a referral from just a setup, just the owners knowing that we worked on permits and setups and things like that, just reaching out saying, hey, I have a partner that would like to get into this business. They want to do something a little different and they need help with, finding not only the permit process, but maybe even help with finding the property and the land. Would you be able to help with that? Heck yeah, we can help with that. Because that's exactly what we like to do. We like to attach those type of special projects. And so I did connect with him. His name is Mr. Chris Matz, and you probably can look him up. I'll just say that because he has an extraordinary story of coming up in the Bitcoin blockchain business, but he wants to branch out a little bit. But anyway, so we connect and he goes, this is what I want to do, TJ. I know I'm reading kind of what you're reading is that this is something that's up and coming. I want to set up this glamping site that has about 5 glamping tents and things like that. So I said, yeah, I'll take a look at it. And he says, whatever resources you need, you just, let me know. I just need you to pull this through for me. Tell me what to buy. He was asking me, tell me what to buy and then how to permit it. So we did that. And what we settled on was, instead of me looking at each and every property that he was interested in or land package, what we decided was I need to vet the counties. I need to go straight to finding out which county would allow any type of land or property in their boundaries, allow it to become what we term, because this the actual term out there is called eco agricultural tourism. That is actually a term, and that's actually a thing out there that people probably have participated in, but they didn't know. And so this is now spending the night in that. So we vetted, this was 12 counties in Tennessee, 12 counties in Tennessee. By the time we were finished, myself and I had a little help, but vetting these 12 counties, we came to 3 that was willing to not only allow this, but to help us through the process. And so that gave him the opportunity to now know what zone he needs to look for in those particular counties and what the process kind of looked like. And a lot of them didn't have a process, but they were saying, we are on board with, with what you're explaining, because you're explaining that small footprint, things like that. So they were on board with this, maybe bringing a little bit of business to their counties. These are rural areas, and things like that. So we got to that, and then what we had to do, and that was pretty much the end of my thing. After talking to all those planning boards, and that was pretty much the end of my project with him. But he says, TJ, would you please just stay on, stay on this project, see it through the end. So we went into finding the plot of land, it was really a place that he brought to me and said, guess what, TJ? It also has a barn. So he's all in now, because now I'm talking to him about, hey, there's all these unique places that you could turn into, barns, and you can do tiny houses. And he goes, that's what, so we could probably do something. He's excited. We could probably do something with the barn on there too, so we
That's
did that.
Bonus.
Yes. So it's been a wonderful road, and we're not done. He had me do the site plan, which is some people call it the plot, the site plan that talks about the easements and runoffs and things like that. And we got that in front of the city. Now he's just waiting on really closing, because we were able to get that all done before picking a land. We didn't want to pick something that we couldn't do this on. So right now, that's what we're doing. We're just waiting, and this process is still going, and it's still really very, very much something that's dear to my heart. Really enjoy this and can't wait to see it come together. But these are the types of projects that we're wanting to take more of. So. Yeah.
That's exciting. TJ, that is so exciting. And what hit home to me, and it all comes back full circle, because initially you said people are looking to come together with their family and they have that fatigue. So when I heard that barn, well, I was thinking to myself, what about a micro wedding? Where it's just a small group and you can come together and kind of have that celebration that would have been grandiose in a different, economy or in a different time on the timeline. But right now, these little eco baby showers with 10, weddings with 10 and 20, he has a nice space. That is a very interesting space. And the barn, I think, is definitely a bonus. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. And you know what? You said something that I actually didn't mention was that not only are people coming together out in these areas to connect with their families, they're coming out there to connect back with nature. So just intuitively, you have people seeking some type of connection, whether it be in those state parks or farms and things like that. So the experiences that they're getting is not that only that they're able to do just what you said, which is these events and those nice barns and things. They're able to do farm work. People are paying to milk cows and, and things like that. So again, it is so exciting.
Yes. And go yoga, right? That's
That's it.
It's almost like a hobbyist farmer, or, people want to connect with nature. They want to connect with animals and livestock. We have a question from one of our mastermind students, Heather. She's wanting to know, what do you want to do with the barn? And we kind of talked a little about, do you want to expound a little bit? What else do you think you can do with the barn? Because there's another platform, PeerSpace, that possibly, I was thinking of that. So what could you tell us a little bit about that?
So if you look at, so you can just do a quick Google search, because I know I do, barns being used for, short-term rentals, or barns being used for vacation rentals. If you use the word vacation rentals, it'll pull them up a little faster and a lot more options. But people are using them just for what you said. They're building them out as event spaces on that property, and people are buying into that rustic event space that they just love. We're not just recreating a rustic space, with an event venue that's, probably modern or polished. So you bring in some of that rustic, decor and stuff. You're actually having a true rustic experience when you do it out in a barn. And it is actual vendors and contractors that are out there now that convert barns. If you look it up, you'll see there's actual people that their business now is to take those barn spaces that may not be being used by actual livestock. This one is barn. There's no livestock there, and turn those over into a useful space for groups of people. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've seen that. I will tell you that is really big in like the Pennsylvania, the mountains area. The wedding gown, they're wearing their cowboy boots.
Yeah.
They're having a barn wedding. And I kid you not, the way they string the lights and they decorate, it is just so beautiful. Yeah. You wouldn't expect it, but it is just so beautiful. And I think it's that yearning to disconnect and then reconnect with nature is where that's coming from. So you hit the nail on the head. So TJ, tell us like we're 5, okay? So I'm learning more and more about you. I thought I knew about you, but I'm learning more and more about you by the minute. So tell us like we're 5. We have investors in this space. They're looking to buy. Cash is tight. Housing prices are up, the wazoo. And so for me, my powerful pivot was to pivot into arbitrage. So I went through the whole situation. I'm calling up landlords, or landlords are reaching out to me through real estate agents, which has been a great opportunity. So are you saying that you can help us find properties?
Absolutely. So I just wanted to take a second to explain what rental arbitrage is, because I'm always running.
Yeah, that's good.
I do run across people that still don't know. So rental arbitrage just means to take control of a property by leasing it as an acquisition under a legal business entity. So I want to, reiterate some things. Under a legal business entity with the intent to use that profit to profit off of by listing it on third-party sites such as Airbnb, Verbo, and even PeerSpace if you want to do it hourly, things like that. And that is, I want to reiterate, that is fully disclosed to the owner, or to whatever entity controls that in that process. So that's what arbitrage is. How do we help? So usually I'll say that there's 5 general, phases or areas, or I'll say phases, 5 different phases that people fall into when they're in this arbitrage journey. It's usually that they're in the pre-admin phase of just getting started, maybe standing up their business, maybe deciding what their budget is going to be, what their goals are going to be. And then they go into the second area of this, which I call the sourcing. And then it's setup, and then it's operating, and then it's scaling. And so I usually find, when people find us within that first two steps, the pre-admin, the sourcing phase, and also the scaling phase, when people have something like I had that room and saying, I want to do a little bit more. Now, before I go into those folks that show us, why is rental arbitrage so attractive? Why is it so, it's on fire right now? If we're really being honest, a lot of people are choosing this route. And the reason that is because you can get into a unit for as little as $5,000. I have seen it. You can find you a furnished unit. You can find your little studio that's maybe, in a not so desirable building or something like that. But it's a lot of opportunities you have to step into a short-term rental opportunity with very little startup costs. Like I said, the average being between $5,000 and $8,000. And it gives you the opportunity to not only step into it with low startup costs, cash flow, almost immediate cash flow. So you list those on, of course you want to go direct at some point, but you get those on those third-party platforms, you start seeing immediate cash flow with that, right? And then the other big thing about arbitrage
As we speak, I just got an inquiry on one of our arbitrage units, so you may proceed.
Yeah, and that's absolutely, it is on fire right now, and that's because not only that, you can scale big and quickly. You can scale across state lines again, and that leads to the last thing. Reason I think arbitrage is taking off is because it's a partnership. So say you just, and I like to use mother, because I'm so for women. I'm here for you women. If you're out there, I'm here to support you. I actually have a Facebook group that supports specifically women looking for arbitrage properties. But say you're out there by yourself, you're working your 9 to 5, you're a single mother, you have some children, and you don't know how to maybe flip a property, or you don't know how to get into, just real estate where there's contracting involved and things like this. This is a good step-in point for those type of people, because with arbitrage, it's a partnership between you and the owner. So a lot of times in their agreement, and I say a lot of times, most of the time in their agreement, is the owner is still taking care of a lot of those major repairs, so that doesn't bog you down or discourage you from coming into this type of business. So a partnership with someone that gives you the opportunity to get started immediately, immediately. So that's what we are. We're helping those folks that usually are somewhere in that pre-admin phase or the sourcing phase. They got everything they need, but they don't know how to get the property, or they have a property that maybe they purchased and they're saying, I don't have 20, 30% to drop on another property, but this is good money for us. It's good cash flow. What are my other options? So we're seeing those people surface and saying, can you help us grow?
I absolutely love it. And again, TJ, thank you for defining arbitrage. That is something that I take for granted. I keep forgetting to define it. And it is a question. I just got that question yesterday. Like, what is arbitrage? I was like, oh, that is a good point. I will definitely have TJ go ahead and define it for us on the talk today. And I totally forgot to do so. So I am so glad that you took a step back to do it. And it shows the level of professionalism you are and the heart of a teacher that you have. And so I so appreciate that. But what if, TJ, so how many properties have you set up yourself?
Oh my goodness. I can't even, at this point, I don't think I have a count of, it has to be, I would say maybe close to 30. So that's a lot when setups, because setups are very rigorous. It's a rigorous process. But again, because I'm such a learner, I want to be, even if I don't stay there at one point in any process, I want to be boots on ground, because there's no better way to learn than hands-on. There really is no way. There is a lot of coaching that will happen, and you can learn, auditorily, or, you can pick up things. But when you actually walk that process, what that investor is going through, what the owner, has to go through. And then you also know what you're building for a guest. It is very important to know your project from those three aspects. If you're in arbitrage, from the shoes of the investor, from the shoes of the owner, and from the shoes of the guest. So every one of those projects that I have done the setup with, I've taken it as a humbling learning experience that now if somebody asks me, okay, now I do more remote because I can, I'm at home, my children are homeschooled now, but if people ask me what has to happen, I know from firsthand what has to happen from setting up that amount of units. And that is important, you know. Another thing I just wanted to just add in there, and I don't know why I want to say this, but if you have units, you have to, you know, you should stay in them. You know, you should stay, even if it's not every single, say you have 160, and I got it, you can't stay in 160 of them. But you need to experience what the guest is experiencing. So, you know, once you decide that you want to set up a unit, and you want to keep rolling that out, you want to try out a couple of your units yourself, you know, and then that's going to tell you from a guest standpoint what their experience is. And I see a lot of people kind of skip that step, but try not to skip that step because it's going to give you good insight on what makes your brand stand out, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And little things, TJ, like when I went to make eggs and then the handle falls out. Well, the homeowner bought it that way. They didn't realize, you know, that's not something you necessarily have on your checklist to triple check. But once you stay and you go through the whole morning routine, what would I do for breakfast? How's the shower pressure? You hit the nail on the head. That is so important. And I completely agree with you. So TJ, people want to arbitrage. It's hot. How do we get to, what if we want to just try to do it ourselves? How do we get started? Where would the first place to be to look?
Now, I'll tell you, before you get the looking out there, you know, listen to me, before you get the looking, make sure you have your business structure. I don't know how many people, I do see a lot of people that are ready to get started, but they don't have a business structure. It is for your protection. It is for your protection to have that structure. So if you have not started there, you don't have your business structure, get your business structure. You could do that by going to any Secretary of State website. So whatever state you're in, go to the Secretary of State website, get that going. Another thing is you want to have your money ready because arbitrage does not take very long at all. It literally is, I can have a property in front of you tomorrow. You know, it's that type of, it's a quickness to the process. So have your money, your seed money available. And also, before you get started with the sourcing, know what your goals are. So I get, and a lot of us probably get, a lot of those mentors and coaches get, I want 20 units, you know, 20 units by the end of the year. And I hear that a lot. But what you want to do is you want to have tangible goals, and you want it to come back to, why is it that you want the 20 units? Not that you want 20 units, but why is it? It's because you want financial freedom. You don't want to work anymore. Have that. And then if you're going to have that, have an amount in your mind to help you with that. So again, just trying to steer people away from, it's not about the amount of units, because I have said this before, no hate on Orlando. It's just the research that I have done. In addition to, Coach Cav told me this a long time ago, I am a Disney professional also. But you can have 3 units in Orlando and 1 unit in Nashville outperform all 3 of those units. So is it good? Is it good that you have all of these units, or is it about the ROI on each unit? So I tell people to try to think about that. Again, before we get to sourcing, I have to talk especially to women, and I love women. Take your emotions out of it. Same here. I had to learn that. You should not be emotionally attached to what it is that you want, you know, as far as if you're looking for ROI, if you're looking for return, you're looking for the numbers to support that this unit is going to put money in your pocket and allow you to scale, even to those areas that are called Class A areas, the Vegases, the Seattles, and things like that. So again, know what you want from a number standpoint. I hate to say that, but know what you want from a number standpoint and try to take your emotions out of it. That's before you get started. Now, once you've got that all down and you say, TJ, I've got that. I even got a DUNS number, you know, because I want to go even into, you got some corporate leases, I'll take those too. Then that's it. You can either do it yourself by scouring rental listings. That can be from anywhere. That can be from Facebook Marketplace. That could be from Craigslist. We are not doing anything that you cannot do yourself. It is just time with it. And not only that, so you're scouring those particular listings looking for this. And what you're looking for is not those commercial type of properties, unless you're looking into a corporate lease. And I get into corporate leases later, but unless you're looking for a corporate lease, but you want those private owners that are out there trying to lease their property to what I call a traditional tenant. Now, this is how you make your money. You know, you get these units. You're going to tell them every single way possible that you are better than a traditional a traditional tenant. I tell them about, I'm going to handle basic maintenance because it impacts our bottom line. If a light bulb is out, if sinks are clogged and things like that. That's normally something what a traditional tenant will call a landlord in the middle of the night for. But guess what? We don't have time for that. We have check-ins going in and out. So we must take care of those things ourselves. So it's starting to look pretty attractive to that owner. So another thing that we talk about to the owners, and you need to talk to them too about it, is that you're in it for the long haul. They're probably experiencing all kinds of turnovers, every year. And then another thing with deposits is that even once they get their deposit back, it's not enough to cover the damage that's left, behind a lot of the. And I'm not dogging, tenants, but it's usually not enough to recover that unit back to move-in condition for that follow-on tenant. So we're telling them we're staying longer. We want to stay as long as you'll let us. Can you let us at least stay for 3 years? If not, you want a trial version? We'll take a 2-year trial version, but nothing less than that, or you're not going to be able to get that break-even point. You want to break even for whatever you put in, but 2 years. And then maybe just like a little trial period. If you let us stay and you like us after 2 years, then let us stay a little longer. And I'm talking about when it's good property, 3-5 years, go ahead and put those longer terms out there for them. And that's attractive to those landlords because they don't want to deal with a turnover every time that they have to list that property. So another thing that I like to talk to owners about is that we do little things that, again, not only are we design boards for your unit, making your unit shine, we're getting professional photos. I'm giving you a copy of these professional photos for you to use, unit already staged and looking great, for when it's time for you to sell. They're like, I need to call you back, I need to call you back. I want to have this conversation a little more, So those are the things that, again, I don't care what courses are out there, and I have learned from, again, Alvin Cavalier, but there's nothing better than solving the problem that a owner has. And you speak to those problems. You don't talk about what it is that I really want to be on the beach. I've been, looking for a unit on the beach. So, you don't want to talk from that angle. You want to talk from the angle of, I know there's tenant landlord inefficiencies out there. Let me be the resolution to those. And this is how I can resolve that. And I promise you, you will get callbacks. I promise.
Yes. You hit the nail on the head. But something surprised me, TJ. So 3 years, that's a long time. I'm scared. Talk to me about that. Why 3 years?
Oh, I love it. So I love that you said that. So one thing that I didn't mention about what's attractive with arbitrage is that it's non-committal. So it's non-committal in the way that if you write the contract right, and I have been experimenting with this over time. If you write the contract right, it allows you to exit out of that particular property if certain things become an issue. And those things that we're talking about is those policy issues, those mandates or ordinances that show up overnight and things like that. Maybe some major environmental change that's crippling your ability for ROI. So don't worry about the length of the lease. The reason we say longer lease is because when you're putting even, $10,000 in, you want time to return that. You want time to pay yourself back. We're not treating that as a sunken cost. We want that return. So you want to give your time. And usually, if I'm being honest, that return usually shows up somewhere between 8 months and a year. So on average, it just depends on but the kind of contract, 8 months and a year. So you don't want to just be, breaking even with your paying yourself back and the contract be up. You want that time to go ahead and absorb 100% of whatever profit is coming in instead of, again, paying back that initial startup cost. So let me just turn this off. Just a minute. Almost. All right. Am I back? Okay. Sorry. I had an alarm set for my children, but yeah. So the reason why we try to go along with those, and that's so you can get the most out of the property. And another thing is, yes, you have to take it serious, and I take it seriously. When you are up for at least a year, so your listing is up for at least a year. I've had mine for a couple of years. After that first year, you'll start to see those real travelers book a year out, book a couple months, 6 to 8 months out. You want to make sure you have that lead time on your calendar to set what I call real travelers, those people that are committing to this, to visit this property. So those are some of the reasons why we like to have those longer term contracts. Yeah.
That's awesome. So what's great about it is you have that opportunity to capture all of the profits from all of the hard work. Then you have a way out just in case those regulatory changes just kind of creep up on you. So that is absolutely awesome. So let me see if there are any. Okay, so we have a question. Justin, you met Justin a little bit earlier in the mastermind. Justin's asking, what does the $10,000 go towards when acquiring these properties?
Yeah, that's a good question. So that's everything. So when I say I see that average, that is for getting into the lease, your first month's rent. And a lot of times we try to talk away. We try to get away from a deposit, but sometimes you can't get away from a deposit. So I'm including the deposit with that. That is for your.
How much is the deposit usually? About a month?
Yeah, it's just a month's worth of deposit, worth of rent. So, and then that also depends on the market you're in. So yeah, we try to get even if we can't get away from it completely, we try to get it reduced because we are taking care of those smaller maintenance issues. So with that, that's your furniture. And that's also having somebody to help set that up, maybe hiring your cleaning team early to help unpack that stuff, and maybe getting your handyman in there for 3 days to do the actual putting the furniture together and things like that. So that's what I'm talking about. That includes it. Even in that cost, I've seen, a little application fee to start that permit process if you have to do that. So that's what I'm talking about when I say, okay, you can get into a unit, anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000.
Awesome. That's great. So comments. Michael Doc Rivers says, I'm here.
Thank you, Mike. That's the one that went through the process of Joshua Tree negotiations from hell.
Oh my gosh. That is insane. And then Valee, thank you for jumping on. Valee's just saying thank you for having her. And we have about 11, 12 other viewers right now. Guys, feel free to drop your questions in the comments below. I think I'm doing a pretty good job of monitoring. If not, please try to message me on the DM, but I think I'm seeing everything on my phone. So hopefully I am. But TJ, oh my gosh, you've covered so much. I've been taking a copious amount of notes. I gotta tell you, oh my goodness. And so when you say, TJ, get our money ready, because right now we're all, it's about to be the holiday season. And what I do love about this powerful pivot, it's bringing some extra cash into my pocket as I try to raise my capital to buy that next acquisition. And you know me, I'm the girl that I believe in. How do I own the least number of properties that generate the highest profitability?
Yes.
I love that. I don't need 100 doors, I think I can change my life with 4 or 5 doors. And so, yeah, absolutely. But that was interesting. You threw a little shade on Orlando there. I didn't know.
No, I'm not. Because Orlando still is performing. It's not, because I had to look it up and kind of swallow a little bit of my pride. It's not exactly saturated, but I have run the numbers, and you can literally get something in Nashville, Atlanta, that will outperform a couple of units. That is the truth. And the reason I try to explain that is because, emotions are high. When people go on vacation and things like that, they want a second home. They want a Mickey home. They want a Daffy home there. So at some point in Orlando, you'll see more second homes in the market than there are people. And so when we have certain, down seasons or even COVID, when that happens, the first thing to go under is those second homes, because people are trying to save their own home. They have no time to try to figure out how to save their Mickey home over there. So again, it's not a shame because like I said, I visit Orlando about 3 times a year, which this place pays for. But it's just because of the way that of that market is. You know, all of those second homes, you have all of those resorts you're competing against, all of those hotels you're competing against. So you really must be unique in that space in order to really get the ROI out of that unit, you know, that you want to get. So again, that's what I have learned. Because don't think that me and my family didn't say we want that Mickey, but we have to look at the numbers. You know, we have to look at the numbers. So
now that you mentioned it, and I'm trying to mastermind a little bit with you now. So in order for me to be unique and really be unique, because I saw those Harry Potter homes, I'm going to have to drop a lot of
money,
really stand out, and therefore that's going to take a dip on my ROI, at least in the beginning. Is that what? Okay. Yep,
that's absolutely right. But you know what? You brought up a point that I don't want to leave here until I make it, because it's important for all of us. Again, I like the underdog. I like working with the people that are just trying to shake things up in their life, change a little something. So we talk about unique. When we start talking about the ways you can, you know, get into this business, now we're talking about creativity coming into the picture and making an even playing field. So you might have somebody that has money and they may not have creativity, so they can get into business. But you may have somebody who has creativity, but not a lot of money, and they still can get into business. When we talk about tents and things like that, you're talking about, I saw York's bell tents for $1,000. I have seen them for $1,000. This takes creativity to turn that into something. And what that is that sweat equity still allowing you to step into this business for little to nothing. Because what does it take to furnish a tent? It doesn't take anything. You could, and I've seen it, I saw this tiny house. And again, even tiny houses, if you get in them because they're really shooting up there in cost these days. But if you get them from a wholesaler, so you get them from the wholesaler, you're still looking at under $10,000 to actually own an asset and make it something, whether it be, and I saw somebody had peacocks that just walked around outside of the tiny house. They found a tiny house parking area and it had peacocks. And now they're like the peacock tiny house, killing it,
Where did you get peacocks from? That is just hilarious.
The peacock tiny house just out there killing those regular units out there. So,
and I would love, and I'm curious, and I'm gonna look for it because I want to stay at the peacock tiny house. It's just, so you essentially you just branded yourself.
You just branded yourself. This creativity is actually somebody who's being creative can actually, even that playing field with somebody just coming to the table with a lot of money. Now, you definitely are a superstar if you have money and creativity. That's a no-brainer. But just say you're somebody that doesn't really have a whole lot of money, but you're a creator, you still can kill it. You still can kill it. So
that is awesome. That is awesome. So tell me what I can do with our properties. I like to set them up. I like to decorate it. What do I do to make it a little bit more unique? Say someone has a property right now. They're in a sea of thousands of other properties. And this is an ongoing discussion we're having in the group right now where you're so, the competition is steep. I'm not going to call it saturation because that's an actual economic term. So the competition is steep and now you're floating lower and lower and lower on the algorithm. How do I stop the scroll? How do I make my face stand out? Tell us.
I just tell you that's kind of why I have really went into this type of space is that, again, love to follow trends. I'm kind of like you. You like to follow data and trends too. So I do think that's another reason we connect that. So data points to that in order to stand out, you need something unique, not just a beautiful unit. Because if you look around, and we just said that, you look around, every unit now has caught on to the fact that it needs to be beautiful, professionally shot, and things like that. And what I'm grateful for, again, for Airbnb conducting these types of research or studies that they conduct. Recently, they conducted a study that showed that people are looking to pick out of this competition a unit that will allow them to live like a local. So again, if you want to try, even if you're rolling out a lot of units, try to look at your unit from a local standpoint. What can I put in that unit that would, allow the user to see, or the guest to see, that this is something that will be special, for a lot. So I'll give you an example. And I'm telling you, this is the most rock bottom thing that you could do. And it was for my unit in New Orleans. I knew it had a story, the unit in New Orleans. I knew that at some point there was like a Creole family there and things like that. So I started digging into what was the history of this unit. And so the history of the unit, and I didn't use the real name, but the history was that unit was at some point gifted to a Creole, freed Creole slave, because she had children by the owner. And the owner, I guess, that really did love her and the children and things like that. So she had that, he had gifted her that particular plot, which later on was that shotgun that was built on that. Those things by itself, without you changing anything, will have people in your inbox asking you more about it and how to get into that unit. So just knowing the story behind something and not changing anything. Then another thing you might do is you might have a local recipe that's maybe in the kitchen is a part of a setup or a little vignette in a photo that shows that, hey, we've got in this in our kitchen local recipes that you could put, crock pot base. You could drop these ingredients to a crock pot and have an authentic recipe from this particular area. So it's just, I love the part of this business, which is getting into the creativity of what you can do, right? Yeah.
That's awesome. And I saw that story. So not only do you have that story, TJ, and I wanted to link it in this thread, but the way you publicized it, it was in such a beautiful way. And I did not realize that was your unit.
Yeah. It was me honoring it, just honoring again and again, going back to the owner and saying, can you tell me about it? Do you mind? And this is what I know, but just them feeling like you're honoring their space, again, building that relationship with the owner. Now you've made something unique, that hadn't necessarily has to do with you putting money into it, and generating some type of interest in that unit from that aspect. And again, not the best arbitrage units are normally not the highest end unit, but you can make it special depending on the type of creativity you put into it, right?
You're absolutely right. And it goes into play into purchasing also, because there's a lot that I was looking at with my partner in the Poconos of Tennessee. It's over 100 acres. And it's incredible. And there's a small area there that there's a different homeowner. And so this is an area that was built, and the family owned it forever. They didn't really want to sell it, but they have to sell it. And so many people came and outbid us, but because of their history and because of all that they've done for the community, we offered to create in one of our, a little memorial, because they had those pictures up. And so you recognize that that's important to them, and so there are some veterans and just the family lineage. And we said, no, we want to keep this. This can be a part of it's going to be a wellness center that we're like a spa wellness center that we endeavor to create. And so we went a little bit higher than our, the asking, but we didn't go high like everyone else, but we won the bid because of that.
You're honoring that. You're honoring that property. Yeah, that speaks so much to what it is that is a perfect example. What it is we're trying to get to, where everybody wins. Everybody wins in that situation.
Absolutely. And also we offered them kind of a timeshare. They can come once a year and stay once the wellness improvement is built out. So we thought it was a no-brainer, and I think they thought so too. So these areas with history are just incredible if you can dig in. But I have a great question from the mastermind. What about the areas without the history? I know you mentioned a creative way to kind of publicize and set it apart. Is it like a local recipe that you can, have a little vignette, take a beautiful photo of it so they can make a local meal? I think that's fantastic. Any other little pointers? It's like a beach house. What sets a beach house apart from another of those thousands of beach houses, right?
Well, I tell you, even the smallest thing like changing the name. So you can, a lot of people will say, this is blah, 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 we're pet and kid friendly. Shake it up a little bit. This is the purple buffalo, I'm just laughing, but, pick something that's kind of you have that maybe stands out about that property that may not be. Again, we've seen coastal. If you have a beach unit, we have seen coastal in 15, 20 different ways, but we have not seen the purple peacock coast. So just kind of, change even just the title to point to something, even if it's a color scheme, the pink Parisian getaway, and then you have kind of a pink palette with some Paris type of decor in it, something that sets it away from the other units. So I would say change your name. Now, another thing is about that Airbnb study that I don't think I finished was that they found, again, that people like something that is local. So if you have, even if it's a sports team, and a lot of people will do that, but do something different with that sports, highlight something different about that team. Maybe the origin of the team or one specific play. Make your unit about one specific player on that team. So I'm just throwing out creativity. There's no reins on it. You can go wherever your mind takes you, and the further your mind takes you, the better that unit will stand out. That's the better that unit will stand out. Yeah, so.
And that really speaks to me, and I think that's so fun, and from season to season, I love to do like quarterly reviews.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. That's a good idea.
What if you change the art and change the throw pillows, and next thing you have a whole new theme, right?
You know what? That is actually a tip that everybody should listen to, because the units or the listings that get that type of attention, where the maybe the title is changed out because an event that's in the right there in the town, hey, we're Jazz Fest ready or something like that. That is a good way that you just brought up, that you can keep yourself boost to the top in that ranking just by changing out your pictures a little bit, by, like I said, using the seasons to do that, maybe add a little something to the title to talk specifically about that time frame and the event that's going on. So yeah, that was perfect example, Rachel. Perfect.
Awesome. Okay, let's see. I think those are all the questions we have. Guys, again, let me look in my messenger. Hit me up with any other questions you have. But TJ, I know you're probably needing to get to the kids for dinner and all of that. Anything else that you would like to share with us before we ask you, how do we find you? Because we all need a TJ in our lives, let me tell you.
Oh, I appreciate it. I don't have anything to say other than that I enjoy, and I know it's hard to know, I don't enjoy building I've got what I want. I might want another property. I think I want something out on the West Coast, but my enjoyment from day to day is actually attaching to other people's project and their goals and seeing those happen. That is one of the reasons everybody has a purpose. So I feel like I'm working my purpose now. So I work 6 days out of the week from my home office, helping with all things in short-term rentals, from your permitting, your setups, and sourcing properties. And I do make women a priority. And I would love it if you connect with me after this, even if it's just to tell me what you got going on. So, yep.
Awesome. And so, TJ, I'm going to link your group, the women's group, where you are sharing STR sourcing information. I'm going to link your other group, the super fun Airbnb with themes group. And I absolutely love it. I love that group.
I do too. I love it because it lets you let loose, with all the things that people are out here. It's kind of just like that unique wild side of, vacation. I like to just call them vacation rentals. It's just fun. It's just fun.
And the listings that you share, and I've been able to find to share, they're out of control, out of this world. They're incredible. Incredible. So they're a dream come true. So I cannot wait to visit some of those.
I'll be using your model soon. I want to start interviewing these folks because there's people out here building some extraordinary things and they need to be on camera talking about this. So
I love how to do it. I love that. I love that. Well, I appreciate you taking your time on a nice Friday evening to share with this group. Everyone, please tap into TJ, ask her questions. She's here to help. And yeah, I'm looking forward to a consultation with you for my next arbitrage. Help is on the way for sure.
That is it. I'm so ready. And that's what we're doing. We actually started sourcing season. So I'm glad you brought that up because I just started sourcing season this week because I don't like to source in the summer. It's too much competition. So this week, and I have, before I go to bed, I have to package up 2 Atlanta properties that are on the table. So we are doing this every day, trying to bring these properties and match them with somebody that's just sitting there waiting for that baby, sitting there waiting for the stork to deliver their property. So again, we started sourcing season on Monday, and we've already turned out the Joshua Tree project from Hell, and then we have by today I have 2 Atlanta properties that are on the table that I will be packaging up and dropping in the group today.
Awesome. And so, TJ, are these what type of asset classes are these? Just so we can have an idea.
Asset classes.
So, like, are these single family homes? Are these apartments?
Yes. Yeah, okay. They're both. So I do both. I'll put in there what I call in the even Atlanta ones. One is a corporate lease, and the other one is a single family 3-bedroom house. Now, what I'll do is I'll put in there corporate leases because I do try to keep those relationships. I've been building those relationships with corporate lease complexes. But I tell you exactly what you have to bring to the table. You have to meet those requirements before you can get into that corporate lease opportunity. So it's both. So I'm glad you asked that.
Awesome. And I just wanted it to come from you because I did notice that you were doing both. And then this glamping thing, it's like, and then you're doing a land lot, and then you're looking at.
Let me tell you, I'm glad you said that too. I'm going to tell you, I'm glad you said that too, Dr. Rachel, is because now one of the projects we have that are going this week is we're finding everywhere possible for you to legally park your RV or your tiny house that you can rent. Like instead of you going out and buy a land, we're scrubbing each listing out there that allows you to pull up, a tiny house or something like that, and you don't know where to park it at and still have these amenities. So we put that on the table to go ahead and start dropping those opportunities, matching you with a tiny house or a tiny house vendor or something, like even one that might be, up for sale, and then also bringing you to where you can park that out. We haven't found that, so we're going to create that. So thank you for reminding me of plugging that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that is incredible because, someone asked if they could park a tiny house at one of our properties. And TJ, I scoured the Unicode. I couldn't figure it out. And so that's something that these are the types of questions that TJ has seen, and she's actually creating a list. You probably would know yay or nay if I'm able to on that particular lot based on the zoning. So this is awesome. This is stuff that we can come to you and rely on you as our subject matter expert in this area. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Yep, thank you. So you can go to CTG, just go to ctgcorporate.org, and there's a little button there that will just say console. You could go there or just email me directly at t.j@ctgcorporate.org. So t.j@ctgcorporate.org. So again, thank you so much, Dr. Rachel, and I do have to get out of here.
Gotcha. Thank you. And I'm going to go ahead and add that in the bio or add that in the thread. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
All right.
You have a good one.
You too.
Bye now.